On this episode of Recruiting Hell, our latest guest is someone you've probably seen on LinkedIn, showing the world how to network effectively. Whether it's normal times or the pandemic of 2020, Lorry Rifkin has the solutions to help you grow your personal connections. Hello, and welcome to Recruiting Hell. I'm glad you're here with us today. I'm your host, Rob Conlon. Episode 24 today, and this is a topic I've wanted to revisit. Simply one of the best resources out there available for your job hunt when it comes to networking and learning how to actually make a meaningful connection with somebody in the professional world. I want to jump into this show as fast as possible because, much like many of our guests, I'm sure that our guest today has a ton to share. As always, a quick rundown of the things you need to know to get the most out of the show. Number one, recruitinghell.com. Again, that's recruiting-hell.com. It's got our new free newsletter, Recruiting Hell Overtime. You're literally just a few clicks and an email address away from more job advice in your inbox every single week. Number two, Patreon partners, thank you as always for supporting the show. It's great to have you helping others and getting great benefits and, of course, sneak peeks ahead of time. If you love the show, you can show your support with a few bucks a month to help make us bigger and better at patreon.com/recruitinghell. Number three, be sure to rate this show and or leave a review or comment. Reviews are huge and help other folks find their way to us here at Recruiting Hell and helps people kickstart their career search. Links, of course, to all of this in the show description for you to check out. And as always, before we start, we highlight the purpose of this show with our brand new 4-part affirmation that we're going to make it through this. Number one, I deserve to find a career opportunity that makes the most of who I am with the talents that I was given. Number two, I deserve to know about and be protected from jobs and employers that would take advantage of me. Number three, asking for help in my job hunt is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And my willingness to seek help in my job hunt will ultimately pay off for me. I have the discipline and the motivation to succeed in this task. I can escape recruiting hell, and I'm welcome at this table to learn new skills to help me win my job hunt. You can and you will escape recruiting hell. Let's meet today's guest. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Lorry Rifkin, creator of Lunch with Lorry and owner of Accounting Solutions of Wisconsin, a bookkeeping and accounting firm. Lorry, welcome to the show.
Rob, it's a pleasure being here today. I look forward to this to see how I could possibly help your listeners in their hunt for a new career opportunity.
Most definitely, Lorry. And again, that's why I was almost immediately drawn to you, because I saw you on LinkedIn. I'm like, I got to get this guy on the show someday. This was even before the show existed. Like, I have to talk to this guy. So it's just excellent. And thanks again for coming on here. In one of our pre-show calls, Lorry, I want to dive right into this. You shared something that I think was really incredible about your past, about how your career had some portions that I would really call borderline tragic. I mean, you shared some pretty sad stories without making everybody, cry. Give us a brief rundown of what the Lorry Rifkin saga is and where you come from.
It's interesting. I failed many times. I've gotten fired for just not caring. I gotten fired for other jobs because I want to do it my way and I'm not mouth off to a boss. And I went into business in a family business that failed. And I was so destitute after that I was driving around with my wife and an infant in the car in Chicago where I lived, going through garbage cans and forest preserves, pulling out aluminum cans to sell. And I didn't own the car. My uncle
Wow.
gave me the car. I had $1,000 left from the IRA and I had no other money. And I wound up taking a job in Milwaukee, moving here. My mother-in-law fronted my money to come here, but I essentially came here with like an immigrant, no money in my pocket.
Wow.
My family wouldn't let me starve, but they didn't throw all kinds of money at me either. So I came to Milwaukee starting from scratch.
That is, I don't know if people know like how scary or how hard that must be. And to just have you let us into that little portion of your life, Lori, I think is just it's incredible that it's all behind you now, which is great. And B, the vulnerability, the openness. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that maybe reflects on a lot of what we've seen happen to people this year. There's a lot of people that have lost a job they've enjoyed or for whatever reason this year. And in my experience, the people who have the best networks are often the ones who kind of survive that the best. And I know you've been doing with your program, Lunch with Lori. I know you've been doing that for a long time. And as I said a little earlier, I followed you from LinkedIn and all my other connections who had some sort of connection to you before, and your name was really familiar to me. But people are seeing that big dinner plate logo behind you, uh, or well, it's a lunch plate, really, Lori. And what is Lunch with Lori, and what do you do?
Well, I got to regress one more thing.
Sure.
All those experiences when I was at my lowest point. Another thing is I lived in sweatpants because I ate and drank so much that none of my clothes fit. That's how depressed I was when I started.
Wow.
And that experience taught me a couple of things important. Failure is required to be successful. Some people are lucky and they don't fail and they're successful.
Right.
But for the average person, you have to fail to have success. And success comes when it wants to, not when you want it. So those are two things I want to tell people, because you can't rush success. You can't rush finding a job. And so I have a long journey. It's where I am now. Took years. Um, when I lost jobs in the past, I people said you have to network to find a job. I go, network? I'm an introvert. I hate talking to people. I don't like going to events. When I was young, I used to hide in my parents' basement when someone rang the doorbell because I didn't want to meet anybody. So you got to understand that this everything I'm doing now is not natural to me. It's not my core. But then little by little, I started networking. Little by little, I figured it out. If you're an introvert, the terror of a networking event is going to an event, and everyone's around a cocktail table and knows each other, and you're the stranger in the room. And little by little, I learned how to butt in. I learned how to talk to people. And then I realized, I had this backwards about networking. There's no school in networking. I would go to networking events and ask, "Oh, can you help me find a job? Can you help me find business?" And that's not networking. I call that the take. You can't get the take until you do the give. And so I started helping people. I started taking people to lunch, learning about them, not asking for anything. That led to a formal program, Lunch with Lori, where I
Huh.
would take people to lunch and hear their story in life. Not necessarily what they do for a business, not necessarily that they want something, just where were you born? Tell me about your kids, your favorite vacation. What do you like in life? What excites you? And so that started the Lunch with Lori one-on-ones. And then I got the courage to try a live event. And I had 20 some people signed up for a Cinco de Mayo live Lunch with Lori event. And then COVID hit and canceled my event. And I
Well,
panicked. I go, what do I do now? And one of my mentors said, like 3 weeks after, he goes, what are you waiting for? What do you mean? What am I waiting for? He goes, we're in a virtual world. When are you going to do a webinar? When are you going to host a Zoom meeting? When are you going to do a live presentation online? And I knew as soon as he said that I had to. And that's when I started the virtual Lunch with Lori events that are a monthly event now. So that's the background. It wasn't one of success. It was failure, freezing, inaction that led to the success.
excellent. So you touched on a couple really important things there, Lori. Number one, the give and the take, I think are really something that is a lot of people say I have to network, which means I have to introduce myself to people so that they hire me. That's a give. That's pulling from people. But what you're saying is that part of the secret is giving to people in
Well,
that
that's a
case.
take. They're going to people and say, I want you to hire me. I want you to send me to other
Right.
people who could hire me. When you go network for the take, the network gods get mad. They make it miserable for you. They don't give you success. They make it so that you want to quit networking, saying, I talked to 100 people and no one's offering me a job. Well, because you don't go asking for a job, you go finding about the people you're with. You tell them what kind of person you are, and you see what kind of person they are, learn about them. That's how you network, by giving. You could give through writing an article. You could give through helping someone less fortunate than you. You could give by volunteering. All those activities ultimately will get you a job, but it's a lot slower because networking that way is a exponential function. It takes time, lots of time for all those connections to percolate, but when they do, success comes a lot faster.
So then, Lori, this is kind of a yes or no question I'm going to ask you. Is that maybe the number one secret to networking is to not make it about you, but make it about them?
It really is. It's not the number one secret, but it's a completely contrarian approach. Almost, and I was in that boat. So I'm just going to say, as a job seeker, when I meet them, usually very early in a conversation, they tell me they're looking for a job. I really don't care. I want to know about them because if I like you as a person, then I'm going to open up my network to you. But when you first lead with, I want a job, you want me to promote you, yet I don't know anything about you.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and then that's maybe what a lot of people are doing wrong is not selling themselves too early. They are selling themselves too early when people don't even know what they're buying. Correct.
They don't. And it's interesting. When you send resumes off to a company to the black hole of the resume collection vehicle,
Yes.
um, you are so used to doing it that way. But when you network in person, people want to know you because one's going to a machine that's reading your resume, and one is a person. If you want my help, I got to know that you're trustworthy. I got to know you're real. I want to know if the skills you tell me are really the skills you have. You do that through questions and answers. And I don't want to know about your resume in the beginning because you could fake a resume, you can't fake your core.
Very true. Very true. All right. So, next quick question. Number one biggest secret to networking. If that wasn't it, I am definitely curious what might be.
The secret of network success is 100 one-on-one meetings.
Really
If you have 100 one-on-one meetings with people, something's going to happen out of that.
interesting. And going with the attitude we just talked about.
Yes, you have to go in there,
Right.
which I call it the lunch of Lori networking way is um, you're learning about the other person. You're sharing your story. You're sharing your life. And I have some people say, well, I have nothing to share. My wife and my daughter say they have no passion. I said, you do. When you have no passion for something, your passion is not having a passion. Everybody has something to share.
Definitely. And the thing I've always found out too is that if you don't know what you're good at, ask somebody else what you're good at. They will tell you because we don't see that. It's that kind of blind spot for us.
Or I'll
There,
do my kids. My kids say they don't. I have a daughter who doesn't like anything in a job. She went to Madison. She doesn't know what she wants to do. My advice in that situation: if you don't know what you really want to do, take the job you hate because I guarantee you'll quickly learn what you like.
that's fair. That's very fair. So, Lori, back to bringing a little bit more of your program. When somebody goes to a lunch with Lori, whether it's with you one on one or in a virtual manner, what's the format and how does it kind of work to make networking a little bit easier?
Well, it's not easier. Actually, it's harder because I'm a believer. Get your pain in the front end. So a lunch of Lori event is networking with an X-ray into people's souls. And what I mean about that is when you register for a lunch of Lori event,
Mhm.
you have to answer 10 personal questions from what's your favorite charity? What excites you? What do you want on your tombstone? What prank are you gonna play? What's your favorite charity and why? What's your favorite childhood memory and why? Think about those questions. If I ask those 10 questions, I learn a ton about something. They get a ton of conversation. So that's step one. Step two, I've learned forced participation is the equal opportunity program for networking. Introverts and extroverts have to
Really?
network the same. So everyone has to connect with every other person on LinkedIn before the meeting. So now you got two forced things. You can't even come unless you answer 10 questions. You can't come unless you connect to the other 20 people. And then during the event, I call on every single participant and have them explain their most interesting answer. So everyone has to participate, even introverts. And then it gets even better. After the event, I do a big post on LinkedIn mentioning everybody. Everyone could put a comment on there. Now they're getting feeds in their LinkedIn chain. So it helps promote them. And The last thing I do is I tell people to continue talking to everybody afterward, because Lunch with Lori is not about getting a job. Lunch with Lori is about knowing people, getting friends, possibly finding vendors, possibly selling to people, and possibly getting a job. But those are the secondary considerations. But people get jobs out of it because people learn about them at the personal level. When you share your personal stories like I have today, you're vulnerable, you're honest, you're real. People want to hire real people.
That is so true, Lori. And again, from the people that I know again that are connected to you, like Elsie Flanard is a great example of this. The guy is just one of my favorite people that I've met from LinkedIn. And it was all through networking. And that eventually led to you. And I'm sure there's 18 other people in the event that you're holding in November that I'm going to be attending, that I am going to have that same LinkedIn friendship relationship that may even go further than that. So that's excellent. But in the past episodes, Lori, we've also talked about this doing your own thing, and we mentioned that you run an accounting firm by day. But is this like a side hustle? Is what kind of what is lunch
Oh
with
no,
Lori?
no. I've decided with COVID, I got hit by COVID too. I'm not
Oh,
immune to it.
sure.
So I have to retool. So I came up with the idea. Where do you learn how to network? I am actually paying to have a professional online course to teach people how to network, because there is no
Wow.
school to network. I have 4 kids who went to college in Wisconsin. Not one of them was ever taught how to network. If you're unemployed and never networked, where are you going to learn how to network? If you're an introvert and you don't know some of the secrets to make networking easier, you're not going to go out and network. There really, if you think about it, there is no real formal courses. There's a couple here and there, but they really aren't geared to my market is introverts, recent college grads, and those looking for work, because those are the 3 groups that need the most help in networking.
Definitely. So then let's talk about where you've taken this. The entrepreneurial side of networking and building a business is very similar to job hunting. So lunch with Lori, again, you said started out as kind of a one-on-one thing. And this was just you decided that you needed to meet this person, took them to lunch, and gave this kind of conversation to them of here's who I am, not here's what I need. Is that
No,
kind of
no, it's not, Rob. It's complete opposite.
okay?
All I did was ask a series of cascading questions to people I meet. It's not about me at all. It's only about the other person. It's asking them a million questions so you know everything about them. And people love telling the story of their life. Because how many people you meet have incredible stories and no one asks them, can you share your story?
Tons of them,
So
absolutely tons. I mean, there are so many people who are quietly awesome. I think it's what I'd probably
And
call it.
so when you start having people share their story, what I found, like I said, you have 100 of those meetings, you're going to find tons of common ground. I didn't know you like kayaking. I want to kayak. Maybe go kayaking. You went kayaking with that person. Don't you think if they saw a job, they're going to more likely
Yeah,
recommend you because they spend a couple hours with you? It's all about the other person. Now, I say that to the extreme because if I didn't, people want to push in too much about them early. If they ask me about myself, I tell them, but I don't go in there planning to tell them about myself. I'm there to learn about their story. And those lunch of Lori's, the individual ones, I publish their story on LinkedIn, and people love having something published about
oh,
themselves.
of course. Definitely. So there's maybe a LinkedIn strategy people can use if they're going to use something similar to what you've done in the past is when you meet that person, tell their story. Don't tell your story, tell their story.
Tell their story. When you tell other people's stories, you're telling something about yourself. I'm the storyteller. I'm the connector. I'm the person who takes people out to lunch. I created a brand which people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just by taking people out to lunch. For $5,000 in lunches, I created a brand that now I have recognition over the United States now. It's spreading out.
Yep.
So you don't have to spend a lot of money on creating a brand of what you stand for, but you do have to do one important thing, Rob. You have to start.
Right. And that's actually I think one of the really most important things you can tell everybody on this show because when I'm assuming that our audience is probably dealing with some real financial challenges right now because of the pandemic and work stoppages and things like that. You don't necessarily need the $5,000 at first. You can start with 30. or 50 or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be a massive investment to help get your networking career going, correct?
No, it's just if you do it on Zoom right now, you can't even go out to lunch half the time. So
Yeah.
you don't have to spend money, but you have to spend something else, which is harder for most people. You have to spend dedicated time
Time,
all the
absolutely.
time. Be persistent, not give up. There's days where I didn't want to go do it. You think I'm down? I have my own problems in my life and family, and I didn't want to go out and network. My wife was dying of cancer. Luckily, she survived. I started Clarity Management. I had to go out and network. So we could find a million excuses why we can't do it, but we only got to find one reason to do it because we want to get better.
Right. Got it. So you said earlier that you specialize in introverts and people who are really looking for work, and that introverts communicate a slightly different way from everybody else. Let's talk about building a network like an extrovert. And besides just sort of speaking the language, how?
Well, it's introverts and extroverts. I'm going to give an example. It's the best way to describe it because it's not what people think 100%. I'm an introvert. And what that means for me to go to a big network event wears me out. So I got to have more energy and I got to have a longer recovery time. So when I go to a big network event, I come home, I have to go to my reclining chair, turn off the lights, turn off sound, and spend an hour regaining energy. My wife is an extrovert. She goes to the same exact network meeting. She comes home, has to dial 30 girlfriends on speed dial saying, I saw this person and wearing this lipstick and this dress. She doesn't need the party gives her the energy to network events. So introverts, I operate and network as an extrovert, but I pay a price in energy. So when an introvert says I can't do it, no, they could do it. They just need to have more energy to do it.
Got it. Sort of saving up to deal with that situation and putting it's something of a stress, I would think,
It
is to
isn't. So when
go deal
you're
with that
right,
stress for a few hours.
but think about it. If you're an introvert and you stress out about going to a network event, you spent all your energy on the stress part and none of it at the event. So just go and you don't have to leave with 30 business cards. If you're an introvert, I would teach you to start, go get one business card, talk to a person. Now you can't hog a person, talk to a person 10 minutes. Next event, talk to two people and build up slow. It took me years to build up. We're not talking transforming overnight. But again, it comes down to it. You have to start. You can't get anywhere if you don't start.
Got it. As that old Zig Ziglar quote, you don't have to be good to start, but you have to start to be good.
And my network in the beginning was terrible. You don't
Really?
think it was awkward? Oh, I would try to break in those little cocktail table things, and people were looking like, "Who are you?
Ooh,
I mean, why you want to talk in our little group?" And I learned because I would go in there and say what I do, what I want. Now I'll go in and say, "How's it going, guys? What brings you to this event? Why are you here today? This is a neat event. They have great food here. Can I put my plate down a second while I'm eating?" And you start talking to people. So you go in with little, I call them tiny questions. Can I stand here and put my plate down while I'm eating? And then if you're good, you start talking to the people little by little. Let me introduce myself. Here's who I am. Then I ask people, why did you come to this event? And I'll tell why I come. You just make small talk. And as an introvert, I had to learn how to do that. And once I got over the hurdle, it doesn't matter anymore. Because if they don't like me, who cares? I'm going home.
true. You may never see them again, right?
Yeah.
Good
But
deal. And
if you practice it, the next event's easier and easier. And I did that over the last 4 or 5 years, really heavy networking. It got easier and easier and easier. I met more people and more people. And then I turned it into a brand.
awesome. And you mentioned that like little steps, those tiny questions, as you said. The first one, can I put my plate down here? That's a very human thing to ask people. And I don't think there's going to be anybody at a networking event, unless they're an absolute jerk, who's going to say no. And it's that first yes that starts to wedge open the door a little bit more.
Or if you're at that same table and the person next to whose cocktail's low, then say, I'm going to get a drink. Do you want me to get you one?
Right?
Those are the questions that I'm not saying I'm Lori, I'm looking for a job. They're just small talk. And if I was unemployed and I don't mention at all I'm looking for a job at that event, it's okay because I have follow through time. That's the other thing. Most people who start networking lack on the follow through.
Gotcha. Question about that picking up the drink, Lori. Are you buying that drink?
I usually do. And I buy lunches, and here's why. I'll buy the lunch, and here's why I do it. Because at the end of the meeting, I say to the person, because they usually want to pay, they usually offer. I go, no, I pay this time because we're meeting in 3 months and you're paying the next time. I got my next meeting.
That's pretty incredible. Nice little trick. I like it. I like it. I like it. Good deal. So another big thing that I'm hearing here is the practice, the reps. You have to push to the next little level, whether it's event 1, 2, 3, or 4, or event 50. You need to be higher than you were the previous time, correct? I mean, you have to continue to build your skills in networking every single time.
It takes, if you haven't networked before, it will take you 9 months to a year to be decent in networking. So if you
Wow.
think it's going to happen sooner, don't get discouraged. I'm not saying don't get upset, but if you quit after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, you're doing yourself an injustice because it's an exponential function. It's designed to make you quit when success is around the corner.
Wow. Whew. That is pretty deep, my friend. That's impressive. The one thing that I really actually wanted to ask you then, Lori, is on that kind of note, you've met a ton of people, and I'm sure there are people that have been memorable from your entire networking career. This was actually almost an afterthought when I was writing this episode. I want to get it out here to people though. Who was your most important networking connection, and how did you find this person?
I don't think it was one, it was getting to be known in groups. I would go to an organization's events. It would take me a year. People would say hi to me, people would talk to me, but it took a year before they said, let's go grab a coffee next week. Here's a deal I
Okay.
heard about. So it isn't, to me, it hasn't been a person, it's getting known in groups. And that's another way of networking. A lot of people look at it as to be a person to person. It could be networking in a group, get known in a group. If I was I'm going to use a purchasing manager, I would be networking in purchasing manager groups, but I don't want to be the same as anyone else. Here's another little secret. You need a differentiator. So I'm not going to use myself as an example. During COVID, supply chains got hurt. If I was a purchasing manager looking for a job, I'd be writing articles on how to rebuild a supply chain. I would be telling people I'm a subject matter expert in rebuilding supply chains. And the other people looking for the job are sending in a resume, manager. I'm sending a resume in. Oh, I'm a purchasing manager, but I've done 6 articles on how to build a new supply chain. I'm a subject matter expert besides being a person who has the attributes of a purchasing manager. Everyone's got to find a differentiator.
Got it. And we've talked about unique selling propositions for people. Everyone has one. Everyone needs to identify what theirs are. And
Not
that
if you have selling propositions, you fail. Giving proposition.
fair enough. It's and in that case, selling proposition. You're right, Lori. It's a giving proposition. The term itself maybe needs to be a little bit altered as to what makes you you. And I think that that's really what it harkens back to. But taking a look at it again, like you said, from the other side, the giving, not the selling, which is awesome. Okay, Lori, I don't know how these episodes fly by so fast. Sometimes it's crazy. Closing out a little bit, there's a little, there's a crazy statistic out there right now, and it says the unemployment rate is 7.9%. That came out on October 2nd from Bureau of Labor and Statistics.gov. And the measurement was very recently argued in Forbes and on CNBC. They've proposed that the real unemployment rate in America right now is a lot closer to 18.8 or maybe almost 19% due to overwhelmed government offices and people no longer looking for work. So regardless of, painting that horrible picture there, what is it that you want to say to job seekers, not just in America in this crazy recession, but the whole world over right now on how to get through this crazy time?
I think it boils down to self-sufficiency. If you're looking for the government and someone to bail you out, you're not going to find it. So practice networking, get good at it. If you're not working, pick up a skill, learn something, because I've learned one thing. You could be a commodity employee or you could be a proprietary employee. What makes you proprietary? Learn a new skill, help give, volunteer, be known for something. Because when you send those resumes in, you're one of 5,000. It's not going to go anywhere. But if you're known for a giver in the community, helping people, always volunteering, a subject matter expert, you have something else to fall back on. Now, people say that's too much work, it's too hard, I can't do it. Well, then you're going to be, when you make that statement, you have defined yourself as a commodity. And getting a job as a commodity today, I'm not sure of that 18%, if all of them are going back to work, if they consider themselves a commodity.
Wow. That's really unfortunate to hear as far as like the commoditization, because everybody is worthwhile. I mean, we talked about it in kind of I spoke about it in the opener that, I believe that people deserve a fair job where they're not treated like a commodity. But you're absolutely correct, Lori, is that when folks don't try to be something that is truly unique, which is what they have the potential to be, they kind of wind up as this run of the mill. Well, you're a warm body, right?
Well, you don't have to be a rock star, but you have to
No.
try. You have to try. And I meet a lot of people who I call, they're a victim. They wear a badge of being a victim on their shoulder. And at least don't be a victim. Again, I've been unemployed, so you can't say, Lori, you don't understand. Yes, I do, because I've been unemployed. I've been broke. I do understand. If you're a victim, you're not going to go anywhere. So at a minimum, don't be a victim. And there's always someone in worse shape than you. Help someone else, because out of that giving, you will get something. And do the one-on-ones. If I challenge of your listeners, stop sending resumes for 1 month, and all you do is go one-on-one meetings with people. And tell me how you feel after one-on-one meetings after 1 month versus sending your resume into the black hole that you never hear anything from. You will feel better. Give that one-on-one chance to percolate. You will get a job through one-on-one meetings.
Got it. And that is such I mean, we've covered so many resume things on this show. That's the first time that we've ever had somebody say, hold up on those. Hold up. Try this. And that's awesome, Lori.
What is the percentage? You have a lot of people resumes. What's percentage of, they send 100 resumes out. What's your average person? What response do they get?
Let me see if they hear back from, and I'll put some personal data in there too. If I were to send 500 or let's say 1,000 resumes, might hear back from 30 companies, so 3%. And of those, maybe three might result in an interview. So we're pushing down towards 1%. Or is that a tenth of a percent? I think that's three. Three is 1%. That's crazy. But I mean, you're playing this fractional game here, if I can do my math correctly.
So okay, if you could send 5,000 resumes in 6 months, or take 1 year to do 100 one-on resumes to get your dream one-on-one meetings. The one-on-one meetings give you instant feedback. You never get any feedback from sending a resume.
Right, because legal says no.
And the one-on-one meetings, you meet interesting people and you learn new things. You don't learn anything from sending a resume in. I'll challenge everyone. Stop sending resumes for a month and start booking those one-on-one meetings. And you email me if you don't feel better after doing it that way. And then you can go back to resumes. But take a break, because you're doing it the same as your competition. You don't have a chance of being different. Meeting people one-on-one, taking the time to pick up a telephone and say, hi, I'm Lorry Rifkin. Can we meet? I'm interested in learning some more about what you do. How many people do that today? Sending a resume because of electronic has been the death of more people trying to look for a job than any other thing.
Got it. One quick question to that, Lori, and I hate to be the but Lori kind of guy. I'm somebody who's got a family to feed. Let's pretend for a moment. I got minimal savings. I don't know if I can stop sending out resumes. What do I do?
I say stop, because if I say same resumes and do one-on-ones, people won't do the one-on-ones. So know what you got to do? You got to get, I've created a position for myself for people who are looking for jobs. It's not a coach. I'm the chief necessity officer. I make it necessary that you sign up for those one-on-one meetings. Because if I tell your listeners, to do the resumes and one-on-one meetings, and I interviewed 100 of your listeners 1 month later. Very few have done the one-on-one meetings because it's too much work.
Got it. Okay. So listeners, there is your challenge. If you're sick of sending resumes, try Lori's way. That is, I think everybody can maybe get on board with that, because I think everybody's sick of sending resumes, Lori. I
Yeah, they
really
really
do.
are.
I really do. Well, excellent. Lori, this has been fun. Number one, you've dropped some amazing advice on us. Did I miss asking you anything about lunch with Lori, or networking that really needs to come out to people right now?
The only thing is, I got 6 months. When I have my course, it'd be interesting. Maybe we launch a early version with some of your listeners who really need the help
Oh,
at an
wow.
introductory price, so they could see what the feedback is. If you haven't networked, I have things like scripts, because I know how hard it is. You're sitting there, and if I told your listeners today, I want you to write an introductory script for LinkedIn, probably three-quarters of people are running to the door. So when I'm running my course, it's a workbook course. It's hands-on. Here's a script you could use. Here's the questions you ask to meet people. Here's the target number of meetings you need. So I've learned, when you have discrete, concrete goals and actions, stuff gets done. But if I say to your listeners, go connect to 100 people on LinkedIn, they wouldn't know how to do it, where to do it, what do you say? So I've created in my course I'm writing all those steps. It's not telling you what to do, it's telling you how to do it and why to do it.
Very cool. Very cool, Lori. And again, focusing on the other person, definitely a winning thing. So I know that you mentioned you've got the course coming up, which I'm looking forward to, and I definitely would like to see if there's a way we can work together in the future on that. And you said 6 months out, which is going to be here tomorrow. It really is. Uh, the other thing I know that you have coming up is November 19th, correct?
Correct. Just
11.
a couple slots left for my lunch of glory. Now, one thing I will say, my lunch of glory is not designed to get a job, so I'm not going to have
Right.
everyone be looking for a job. But I let in there, um, 5 to 6, 25% of the people are looking for a job that come, but they're people who have interesting stories. Again, you got to have some differentiator. I know you can say I have bills to pay and stuff, but you can't rush a job. You could send out those 1,000 resumes, but if you're the same as the other 1,000 they got, you're not going to get a job. So lunch of glory, if you are really a go-getter and want to go through networking, sign up for a lunch of glory. I have a website where you could get on a mailing list, www.lunchwithlori.com. So you can sign up. I have the next open events on there. We have 1 or 2 slots left for the November 19th event. I'll be working on a December event coming up. But if you want to learn the network, you have a burning desire. If you're the type of person who's Lori, I'll take that challenge, not send resumes, and I want to meet 100 people one-on-one. I encourage you to sign up.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing you virtually there, Lori, number one. And for listeners, if you're hearing this and there's still space, by all means, please, by all means, sign up, get with Lori here. He's got some of this excellent information for you. And I'm going to be at that event, which is going to be a ton of fun. Again, that's what, November 19th, 11:30 Central,
11:30.
or Chicago time in that case, because we do have international listeners, which is kind of cool. Well, Lori, thanks again for being with us here, my friend. Anything else you'd like to add before, other than, visit you on your website and hit you on LinkedIn, things like that?
Well, I have one thing, your listeners should all connect with me on LinkedIn, because you
Yes.
never know if I connect with somebody. I know people are looking for help. And again, the hidden job market where people find jobs through networking that never make it to an ad, connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me what you're looking for, because in my travels, I might see something for you. So I encourage everyone, send me a connection request. It's Lorry Rifkin. You'll find me on LinkedIn and connect with me. I've given this challenge. I've been in other groups of unemployed people who gave that challenge.
Yeah.
And you know how many people connect?
Really, we can do better than that. I know there's listeners out there. If you've connected with me, you need to connect with Lori. And there's a whole lot of folks out there who I know that are, again, great listeners, longtime listeners. I will encourage them, Lori, because not only is it in their best interest, but also I'm sure at some point in time it turns around for you as well, to help you continue your journey also.
They might see somebody. I publish a lot of the events I go to. They might see somebody they want an introduction to. And if they're connected with me, I can make that introduction. But I don't know if they want to meet somebody. I can't connect them.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, that's the same thing. And again, put both of our networks to work for you if you're a listener here on Recruiting Hell. Well, it's time to wrap up, Lori. So we're in great shape. For more Recruiting Hell and other great information and the people that revolve around this show, like Lorry Rifkin, head on over to recruitinghell.com. That's recruiting-hell.com. And be sure to subscribe to Recruiting Hell Overtime. It's our new weekly newsletter full of extra stuff that doesn't fit in this show. You can also find our blog, the social media accounts, show notes, and of course, links to our TeePublic, if you want one of these shirts, and Patreon pages to help support the show and the job hunt. Also, there is a bit of a casting call going out. If you've escaped recruiting hell and you're a listener of this show, we want to know about it. Our second Escapee edition is in pre-production right now, and number 3 could be you. Drop us a line through recruitinghell.com's contact form, or hey, email me direct at therecruitinghellpodcast@gmail.com. Share your story, and you know what? You might even be the next guest on the show. If you're looking for more great shows or other guests that appear here on Recruiting Hell, check out recruitinghell.com for our list of wonderful content creators and companies like Lori's that we call friends. Check them out. They're amazing people. And hey, if you haven't subscribed, followed, or shared this show, or even rated this show, that would be amazing if you could do that. There are millions of people the world over, not just in America, but they're all over. We've had listeners from Australia, Argentina, Germany, Serbia. These folks are out of work. They need to learn how to power up their job hunt, and they're likely your friends and neighbors. Let's get them helped out. Lastly, as always, thanks to Purple Planet for our music and you, the listener, for tuning in. I'm Rob Conlon, and until we meet again, keep moving forward with your self-betterment and your job hunt. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And Recruiting Hell will be here to help you keep pace.